Since April of 2020, when the Pentagon confirmed the validity of 3 videos of unidentified aerial phenomena that the Navy verified as crafts captured on infrared video that defied all laws of physics and could reach impossible speeds, people have been looking into the history of UFOs. After Roswell and Area 51, they usually come across an instance that there was or is a deep underground extraterrestrial base under Dulce, New Mexico. However, this whole story was an elaborate tactic from a disinformation agent trying to hide testing of then secret military aircraft. Before we get into this story, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you are re-notified when new content is uploaded. The idea that extraterrestrials had a base under Archuleta Mesa were provided to Paul Benowitz, a prominent businessman who owned Thunder Scientific Labs in Albuquerque and was a subcontractor for both Kirtland Air Force Base and NASA, because he had recorded evidence of then secret aircraft testing. In the late 1970s, Paul's home sat on a hill overlooking the Air Force Base's weapons testing area. He began seeing testing of drone technology and thought that they were UFOs. He was already biased. As a member of the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, he began filming the lights in the sky above the testing site, and soon started trying to communicate with what he believed were extraterrestrials. By pointing an antenna at the base, he recorded strange signals. When he sent what information he had to the Air Force Base, it immediately raised security concerns. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations was contacted, and Special Agent Richard Doty was assigned to Paul. Richard started with the foreknowledge that Paul was a believer in UFOs and a member of the UFO Research Organization. Not being able to attend the meetings himself, he had found that Bill Moore was also a member. In 1979, Bill had co-written the book, The Philadelphia Experiment, where he alleged that in October of 1943, the Navy was testing stealth technology on the Navy destroyer escort, the USS Eldridge, when the ship suddenly teleported from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard to off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia. Supposedly, after the ship reappeared in Philadelphia, some sailors were found fused to parts of the ship. In 1980, the group was focused on less dramatic evidence, which would also start the correlation between UFOs and cattle mutilations. In June 1976, there was a series of mutilations on the Gomez Ranch in Dulce. Soon after, the organization began receiving reports from a few people who said that they had been abducted by extraterrestrials, but taken under the peak of Archuleta Mesa and implanted with extraterrestrial technology. These abductees, for some reason, believed that these beings were somehow cooperating with Sandy National Labs in Albuquerque. Not everyone was convinced that the cattle mutilations were because of out-of-this-world experimentation. However, Deputy Gabe Valdez was the first officer to visit the site and noted that there were gas masks and glow sticks that had been discarded nearby. The culprits, he believed, were very much human. He did become friends with Paul, however. Richard entered into an agreement with Bill in order to direct misinformation within the research group. Richard told Bill that everything he had written about in his book on the Philadelphia experiment was true, and that the government had obtained extraterrestrial technology from the Roswell crash in exchange for insider information on what Paul was researching. Bill was given a fake document on UFOs, allegedly from the Air Force. Inside of the paperwork, said to be classified as Project Aquarius, there was a detailed memo about how the government was working with extraterrestrials to invade Earth, and, according to the fake documentation, the extraterrestrials had already started colonizing under the surface of the planet. There was little risk to the disinformation unknown to Bill. If he had leaked the information to the press, the whole project could easily be dismissed and proven fraudulent. At that time, Paul had continued his investigation into what he thought were UFOs and extraterrestrial communication, which threatened the important military testing of drones. So, the Air Force gave him a $75,000 grant to investigate UFO phenomena, and Richard was ordered to make sure that Paul was completely convinced that he needed to focus elsewhere, and what the Air Force was turning into a fake extraterrestrial base of operation on our planet. In 1981, Paul met Richard. The disinformation agent presented himself as a member of a sector of Project Blue Book, an Air Force UFO research project that ran between 1952 and 1969 called the Aviary. Richard took Paul on a helicopter ride, and they flew over Archuleta Mesa near the peak. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations had staged the area near the peak to look as if there were an extraterrestrial base underneath, even going as far as to place fake sci-fi looking air vents in small buildings. To Paul, this was irrefutable evidence. The Office of Special Investigations would go on to add spotlights so that it looked like work lights were leaking out from inside of the peak to push the agenda to anyone who would be nearby that there were extraterrestrials in a base underground. Paul had his own private helicopter, so the Office of Special Investigations had to continue their scheme for quite a while. The next year, he would come forward and share his findings with the public. When the Office of Special Investigations was asked to comment, they denied the existence of UFOs. What would you do if you had irrefutable proof that extraterrestrials existed and had an underground base near your home? Really think about that and leave your comments below. Paul Benowitz fell down the extraterrestrial rabbit hole and had an existential crisis. It didn't help that the year before, Richard had confessed to everything, and the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization disbanded because they had been tricked into backing Richard's claims. The inner conflicts he had and feeling like his life had no meaning was enough to cause an emotional breakdown. In 1989, his family committed him to a psychiatric facility. After his stay in the psychiatric facility, Paul still remained interested in UFOs, but had nowhere near the same level of commitment to the research as before. An underground extraterrestrial base under Dulce would be taken up by a very colorful character named Phil Snyder, and became part of the tales that he shared at UFO conferences. Phil's convention presentations have been questionable. He claimed that his father was a U-boat captain that was captured by the U.S. and had participated in the Philadelphia experiment. After reading about the supposed Venusian called Valiant 4, who a minister by the name of Frank E. Strange said was working at the Pentagon, had a close relationship with the President Eisenhower, Phil said that his father also worked with the extraterrestrial. He also said that when he was a child, his father had given him a piece of the wreckage from the Roswell crash. But Phil would surpass his father's legacy when he said, after meeting Richard and Bill in 1984, that he was wounded in what would become known as the Dulce War. Phil said that in 1979, when he was working with the government as a geologist, they had broken through a previously unknown cave system under the Archuleta Mesa. He claimed that they encountered hostile extraterrestrials. The military and the creatures had a shootout, and 66 soldiers and scientists had lost their lives. What do you think about how government agencies intentionally mislead the public to cover their experiments? Do you think there are deep underground alien bases? Leave your comments on this video, and if you like the content, consider hitting that share button and letting your friends know about this channel. Thank you.